Welcome to the Loki Field, where we're all about violating the minds and inner realms of our guests to talk about love, life, and geekery. Welcome to the pilot episode of the Loki Field. So tonight's guest is really special. It's going to be a good mentor and friend of mine, Strix Toledo. And we'll be discussing the F word, flow, the Flash Force, and other geeky things. So, hi, welcome to the show.
Hi.
So, can you share a little geeky intro about yourself?
I'm a Spider-Man, Batman, Iron Man, and Flash fan, primarily. I wear a lot of hats, but I see my work altogether as me being a catalyst and accelerator of sorts. I'm the guy who helps people become more capable. So I'm kind of the guy who takes a frail human being up into monsterhood and into herodom. That's what I do.
And you touched on the heroes, and the other night we had an interesting conversation on you talking about totems. So just for the listeners who are listening right now, could you briefly touch on totems in relationship to the heroes you mentioned?
You know that stuff that superheroes wear on their chest that they choose? That's kind of like their totem. So for Spider-Man, it's the spider, where he reflects on his chest the symbol of both his origin story and his acceptance of what he now has and what he must do with it. For Batman, he wears the totem of the thing he feared the most but has transmuted or transformed as his own. You might think of it as a superpower in this case as well. If that doesn't make sense, I'd say that Batman's superpower is actually focus.
Yeah, you mentioned that, and it surprised me.
Yeah, he transformed fear into anger, into focused rage, and into clear focus. So, if you might like to think of it, Spider-Man's superpower was secret superpower is acceptance. Batman's secret superpower is transmutation or transforming one emotion or feeling or energy into another. In this case, fear into anger, into focus. For Iron Man, the totem is actually the shell, the armor, the iron. And in this case, it's actually a cocoon. So a spider, a bat or fear, and iron or a cocoon, within which he transforms from someone who had callousness into someone who actually cared. And we have also the Flash, who wears that lightning on his chest to reflect both his origin story and his special, relationship with time, his remembrance of things past, his ability to visit the past and any other point in time for that matter, but his ability to do both recognition and action, and he wears that on his chest. So in a very weird way, I see not just the totems they wear and what it represents, but in a weird way, the secret superpowers these things bring. For Spider-Man, it was acceptance. For Batman, it was a transmutation of emotions. For Iron Man, it was a transformation of himself. And for Flash, it's both a remembrance and the ability to act.
Really interesting. And I love geeky talks with you. Just the geekery you bring to conversations is crazy. So tying this into what you do, would you be able to share on that? Your superpower is almost helping people tap into the version of themselves that is what you describe as being a monster, or that next level version of themselves, however way you achieve it. But you have this crazy ability to help people unlock 2.0 version of themselves, 3.0, just that next level. So could you touch on that?
Sure. First off, if they just stick with this for just 5 minutes and see how this makes sense, anyone who listens will get an idea of what we mean when we talk about this state called flow. And I guarantee they won't be able to use it immediately. But if they take it for testing, within a few days or a couple of weeks, they'll find that what we're looking at when we talk about flow isn't something that's unusual or hard to do, or that it's something that requires you to be exceptionally smart. Everyone can do it, and there's a way to trigger it. So we're talking about this thing we call flow. Flow is that state when things are so critical and unusual that your system, your mind body, it just doesn't have any other choice but to operate from a higher set of capabilities. We have to set aside our common thinking and our common capabilities and open up to much more, because literally it's the only way to survive. You tumble down a mountain, you run down the side of a mountain, you jump off the side of a cliff, you jump off a plane, you bungee jump, you drive at speeds which are usually extremely dangerous. Or if you're just trying to digest a whole lot of information at a scale faster than you usually can, to a scale where if you were thinking about anything else, you couldn't. And then you have an idea of what we're talking about. So in terms of like F1 drivers, it's that state where you hit past 450, and my patients say that time seems to slow down. Everything becomes HD and sharp, vivid color, and they can zoom in and out with their vision, and they react automatically. These are all manifestations of this weird state that we call flow. And there are characteristics which you find in common with all these states. And I like chunking things together, so I'll use a bunch of C's to describe these. I'd like to hear what your experience has been with flow, though, because I'm pretty sure you have some familiarity with this, given your biohacking background, your curiosity, your geeky inquisitiveness. What's your experience of flow then, before I dive into these many characteristics?
So yeah, I've always been obsessed with reverse engineering Iron Man, and part of that is flow, which to me has always been this elusive state that would come and go. Like I would never be able to get that like slowed down, altered feeling where just things happen easily and things are crystal clear, like the colors are more vivid, everything just time seems to slow down. And yeah, I first experienced it, like I tasted, like the adrenaline junkie in me thought that's how you triggered flow, by doing crazy extreme things. And yeah, just that it was always fleeting, it was always something I would look for and I would taste. I would try different things. Like I tried biohacking, I try modafinil, I try nootropics, I try everything to maintain and keep that state. And I love that when I met you and I worked with you, just that there was actually an entirely different way to go about it. And yeah, I'd love to hear you talk about flow and to go more in depth.
Sure. You've touched on a few key elements and even the gateway that most people do. So I get it. When people jump, like as in bungee or parachute jump, I get that part of it is that adrenaline rush. I also, however, get that what they're actually looking for is that calm state when everything just slows down. What they're actually looking for isn't just the rush, but that flow state that kicks in when you hit 450 or faster, that kicks in when when you have to have all your wits about you, and a super clear head is the only way to survive when you jump off a helicopter. You've touched on a few key elements there. There's that strong element of presence, there's that distortion of time, and there's that high level performance capability that's tapped in. And all of these track to the key elements of flow, which I'll say in my own way. There's concentration, and I'll go through these real quick. There's concentration, there's clarity of mind, there's a clocking, that time stuff. There's a contraction of consciousness, which is my way of saying that thinking and action become kind of one thing. There's that immediate celebration or reward, meaning you get something out of what you're doing in the moment immediately. So there's that immediacy of feedback, and I call that celebration, just so everything is a C. And there's that element of challenge, which is the critical factor for me, for simplifying how to build your own flow states. And there's that element of control, or feeling that you are somehow in control of what you're doing. So I'll say it again: concentration, clarity of mind, clocking, capability, challenge, a contraction of consciousness, and a celebration or a reward. And if I put them all together, I've simplified a way of accessing these. And of course, there's just a more detailed or a more hands-on way to do this that people can do with us if we book or sign with us to do this work, specifically in groups or one-on-one. But at the core of all of these are what I call a push and a priming. What I mean by a push is that people go before they're ready, so that the critical element to me of flow, which is challenge at or slightly greater than skill, like it's slightly bigger than you could choose, so that it actually pushes you beyond your usual envelope, beneath which it's just boredom, and too much above which it's just overwhelming. So there's that element of a push that also pushes your mind to look for patterns. So there's that pattern recognition that enables our mind. So when you're hurtling through concrete, or when you're hurtling through clouds, that pattern recognition that opens up, that contrast, that ability to pinpoint contrast, that pattern recognition saves you, because it can detect when things are happening which are dangerous for you, because literally it's the way to survive. And that's something that's really important that people should know about flow, is that if you freak out about it, it's harder to access. But if you have the knowing, the understanding, and the training that actually shows you, hey, this is natural and it comes up when I need it, that alone will change the game. If you get that, your heart won't suddenly beat 30 to 60%, like more cardiac output, more flow right before you need to run. But if you get that, your heart doesn't have to beat at that strength all the time, but that when you need it to save someone from a fire, or if you have to suddenly rush across the road to save an infant, if you understand that that's how it works, like when you need it, it will show up. You just have to push that envelope. That alone will change the learning how to do flow game. And then the second thing I said was this thing called priming. And essentially, these are reflections of each other. You set up yourself so that you succeed in getting into flow, and then you push yourself at your envelope, so much so that the only way to actually deal with what you're up against is to enter a state of altered consciousness, to enter a state of flow. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember there was this one time that I saw you in this coffee shop in Ortigas, and you were mapping out what you call Project 50 Steps, and I was just really fascinated. So could you share for the listeners who aren't familiar with that, where that came from, and how your obsession or your passion for flow, for focus, for achieving this came about?
Okay. A few things. As I track back, you have a fascination for origin stories, and I thought long and hard about mine, because for the longest time I couldn't see myself as having like an exceptional origin story or any origin story of sorts. But as I looked into it, it seems that there actually might be something to that. And for me, it was when I had a really bad case of back pain, and they had to stretcher me down from the third floor, where it was highly amusing and not amusing at all, because the emergency guys who got me on a stretcher board, and they were doing it wrong. They were bringing me down a flight of stairs with my head pointed towards the ground. That's a dangerous way to do things. It's also a good way to break your head if they drop you. Okay. So there's that, and I guess that's from where that might have primed me to learn how to do really well what I do now, to a large extent, which is help people get back to function, help people manage and overcome all sorts of pain. The other side to it was, I don't believe you've ever heard this before, but as I looked into my own history, I have had really bad bouts of depression, more than once, and over extended periods of time. And my search for answers, for a way out, for peace, clarity of mind, just a way to function well in the world again, and to have a better experience of life, have led me on this quest for what I call limitlessness. And this tracks to a movie that, let's see, Bradley Cooper, 2009, 2011. So low back pain and looking for a way to function again, and then depression triggering my search for clarity, and the waste of time that I spent in depression looking for me to find a way to do things better, faster. So my search for a way out of depression led to me being able to find states of clarity and being able to focus. So there's that thing that you're referencing now, which I call it's from something I call Project 50 Steps, which essentially was my answer to, okay, how do I do what the movie promises?
Without the pill.
Yeah, without the pill. So there's that thing that Bradley Cooper said, I wasn't wired, referring to side effects of the pills commonly associated with these states. I wasn't wired, I was clear. I knew what to do and I knew how. I was blind, but now I see, which is also a reference from other things. But yeah, I was looking for a way to reverse engineer off that. And Project 50 Steps became this thing I call the Ibiza axis, which is a way for me to analyze the most unpredictable thing that there is, which is human choice or human will. So I look at the framework that includes insights, beliefs, skills, and action. Because if you think about it, these are the only reasons why people will do something. By example, reverse engineered for sales, I can tell you that the only reason a person will buy something or won't buy something, like from us, by example, will be because they haven't had a new idea. They don't believe in you, in themselves, or in their product. They don't have the skills, or they won't do the action. So I can look at an event or an occurrence or an interaction, and I can look 50 moves in every direction and kind of predict how it might play out. And that was the choice axis that you've seen me use, this matrix of human choice, this Project 50 Steps. Later, of course, I discovered I was wrong, and that actually all you need, exactly like the movie. Because in the movie, you don't actually see 50 steps. He just said, I'm way ahead of you, Carl. I'm 50 moves ahead. Okay? It turns out, actually, very like the movie, he doesn't think through the 50 steps. You just think of where you're starting, what you want to sort out, and then the final answer just appears. And this is exactly what I found. Although creating like a structure model for myself really helps me analyze many things. It's one of the operating systems that I happen to use now. The others, one of them might be popular as well, Stoicism, and a couple of others. First principles thinking, Stoicism, and this axis of choice are the modes of thinking, are the operating systems that I very often use for myself to figure things out faster than anybody else. Within my set of capabilities. I guarantee you there are people who are smarter than me, but this is, how should I say, a way for me maxing my own capabilities. And you've seen that in action.
And you've explored all. Like, you've explored nootropics, you've explored audio tech. Like, your audio tech is crazy. Like, I haven't seen audio tech, and ways of triggering the different states, like the alpha brainwave states, and the geeky neuroscience that you put into your tech, into your work, is just next level. So,
thank you.
Yeah, you've tried it all. And
yes,
you've come up with just this tech that right now is called Limitless. And was it more for you? Like, was concentration something that was easy for you? Like, was all of this, like, other than the pain aspect of it, was like, did you ever look for that state of like, or was it always easy, or just was it pure fascination?
No, of course not. The reason why I sought all of this out is I had to figure it out for myself. So you might think of it as I saw myself as a less capable, somewhat lousy human being, and I just thought there must be a way so that I can do more, so I could be more. And I wasn't really good at concentrating. So one of the first things when I discovered neuro-linguistic programming a hell of a long time ago, even before I became a doctor, when I discovered neuro-linguistic programming, I looked at, does this work? And what can I do with it? And one of the first things I did was model for myself a way of really concentrating, of really focusing. And so I developed laser concentration with a really bad side effect of I could concentrate so well, I'd have the delusion that there wasn't anyone else in the house or wherever I was, which is problematic when I suddenly discovered that there are people. But yeah, it's something that I had to discover for myself first. As I say it now, these are systems to save my own sanity. Thankfully, I modeled them rather than from what works for one guru. I looked at what works for all of humanity, and then I looked at, okay, this works for everyone. This is one of the perks of being a physician. You know, I look at the physiology and the anatomy. I look at the structure and function of things, and okay, is this true for all? Great. And then will this work for me? And the consequence of that is I have a technology that will work for anyone.
Yeah, you touch on software and hardware.
Yep. What about?
Yeah, you touch on both of that. Like, your technology, you don't just focus on one thing or the other.
It's one thing. The division between mind and body is an artificial thing we had about 300 or so years ago, Socratic Aristotelian times, when the amount of knowledge was just too vast and they just decided, this is too much. You study this, I study that. But in truth, mind-body, it's one unit. When you're anxious, your breath shallows and your heart races. When through exercise or relaxation techniques you calm down the body, the mind settles down as well. So it's just, for me, I haven't forgotten that they're one thing. And that's been an edge to my technology. People who have trained with me or have been trained by me know this from day one, that they're dealing with one system. In fact, physical therapists I've trained, one of the first things I tell them is, you're in a very privileged position. It looks like you take care of body, but the moment you touch body, you touch mind. And you have to be aware of that you're dealing with both at every single moment in time. And that's what we're seeing now, that when you take care of people, you're dealing with several realms. We call it biopsychosocial. You deal with the physical aspect, the mental, and the connecting with other people aspect of things. And this is always. So we have to look at all these realms. So it's mind, body, and society, if you look at it. So all of my work hasn't forgotten that. And if you look at the many hats that I wear, they look at that fact. So through the years, I've been poet, writer, a dreamer who's trying to become a realist, a biologist, a physician, a conversational hypnotist, a consultant to coaches, leaders, and people in all sorts of pain, and incidentally and accidentally, a real estate broker and a appraiser. If you look at all of this, they connect in that, yes, I'm a catalyst for change, an accelerator of sorts for genius and capability and return to function. But they also look at the fact that all these things are interconnected, mind, body, society. Like it's one thing, it's one living organism, and I treat it as such, and I guess that's why I have the results that I do get.
Yeah, and here's the thing. One of our friends said this about you, is that you're almost a secret. Like, people don't, like, when they reach a certain level, or that 1%, they stop sharing you, like, who you are. Can you tell the
Yeah, that's funny. One of my friends said, he said, Strix, you know what it felt like a setup. Strix, you know what the problem is with you? He said, okay. I go, and then he goes, your patients keep you a secret. I asked him to elaborate, and he said, people don't tell other people about you. And I thought about it for a while, and I thought, that's not true, because most of I don't advertise. My patients throughout the years they're all referrals from people who have worked with me or who have been helped by the work that we do. But that's at a certain level. It's like I couldn't get that. But it turns out, when you refer someone to a doctor who helps them, they become a hero. It's like, oh, you gave me something that works. Thank you. And so that's why people refer me to other people. At a certain level, though, at the really elite, at like the 1% level, it's weird. It's like people pretend that I don't exist. They go to me for treatments, then I see their, people in the same industry or in the same elite sport, and then it's as if it's as if the other person hasn't heard of me, or like they pretend I don't exist. It's funny. So when they go back to their trainings, or when they go back to their gyms, or when they go back to their other physicians, or when they're in group meetings, it's like, they don't talk about me like I'm that hidden secret, like I'm the unfair advantage, or at least the work we do is. So that's that joke. In the vernacular, my friend said, Strix, alam mo kung anong problema sa'yo? Sinesekreto ka ng mga pasyente mo. And that's it. That people keep me a secret, because I get it now. When you're fighting at that level, just small increments of ability amount to a lot. Just small percentages put you at the top. Small percentages of difference in capability are the difference between elite winners and the elite who don't make it to number one.
I call it cheat codes, and I don't like sharing my cheat codes either. So I
get it. It took me a while to understand that, but yeah, I'm kind of okay. I get it now.
Yeah, so there's so much you can share, and I'm really appreciative of having you on the show. But just to wrap up, we have 3 questions we ask all of our guests.
Sure.
So question number 1 is, in a perfect reality, in a perfect world, what would that look like?
I think I'd be doing what I do now. Get paid for it more, so that I actually get to spend more time off, and I get to improve my craft even better. So in practical terms, that would be me on a beach somewhere, taking 2 weeks to 2 months out of every year, having taken care of everyone that I need to, so much so that I could just tune out and reconnect with peace and quiet and just vibing and spending some time. Spending some time really kicking it at the beach. It's like my breakfast scenario would be me digging my feet into cold white sand with water nearby. Like you can hear the water. Yeah. And then my evening scenario would be sitting at the edge of the beach and hearing and feeling the waves give in and out. Yeah. So more of that. And I really liked it when I for a couple of years I got to travel all around the world doing coaching and consulting. I'd be out for like a week each month for an entire year, and I really like that. That opens up the mind a hell of a lot, and I enjoyed, despite my antisocial tendencies, my extreme introversion, I enjoyed meeting people and really seeing them hit the ground running with the technology I was sharing. It's fascinating and remarkable and really beautiful to see people like changing lives with the technology that we have. So I'd like to do more of that.
And you were able to go to countries that apparently you shouldn't be able to go to, like literally, what was those countries, like in Eastern Europe?
Yeah, in particular, like I didn't know there's places like that, but apparently you can only get in with like invitation and extreme scrutiny if you go into places which were war-torn in particular. So it's nice. Like to see, in particular, like Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is like, it says Bosnia and Herzegovina because it's like two countries but are one country, which kind of shows you what an unusual history they must have. It's a mix of cultures, races, and a few other things. But, you know, they managed to get along. You walk around, though, you'll see like huge pock marks out of the sides of buildings where mortars have hit, like shelling has hit the buildings. And it's such a stark contrast from how peaceful the place looks, how beautiful, and how nice the people are. Yeah, so I like that. It's eye-opening to see things you haven't seen before and to understand things you never even considered.
Nice. Okay, really cool. So question number 2 is, what's a deep, dark desire or fantasy that keeps you up at night?
Oh. Deep, dark fantasy. Desire keeps me up at night. I'd like to develop more technology. I wish I could. So I'm learning the game of the other things I have to do in order to be able to do that. In particular, I'm not a fan of sales or marketing, but I've taken time to learn that because I understand it seems to be part of the equation. So thankfully I like psychology, and that's like practical psychology, how the mind actually works. And it overlaps with my other work, understanding how people tick, what makes them tick, what makes people do what they do. So that's let me be more comfortable exploring like the marketing side of things. I think it might be something I'll have to understand better and work on, or find teammates better still to play with who can help me out with that side, in an effort just to free up more time so I can do the other stuff that I love and be with people I like. So the deep dark thing is I'm willing to work with like the strange world of marketing. Because I get that it's a means to an end. And I get how, to some extent, that's how part of the world works. I like that it overlaps with, you know, things work better if you understand how they work. And I like how it overlaps with like the psychology side. So that helps me be okay with exploring that realm more. So
there are going to be a lot of marketers listening to this, so probably get a lot of this. But yeah. Question number 3 is, lastly, what's a guilty pleasure?
Sleep. Good food, sleep, good company. Guilty pleasure? Yeah. I one of the weird side effects to like a really quiet mind is I can actually have a conversation with nothing on my mind. Like, I don't have a script, I don't think about anything, there's nothing on my head. You ask me what's on my mind, there's nothing. And like the only person I can hear is the person in front of me. That's been like a really huge gift. And like, it's highly meditative. I don't really meditate per se so much in like a separate practice most of the time. But when I listen to someone and I listen fully, I hear nothing else. I hear no one else. So it's actually nice. I like to be able to do more of that. And same thing goes with food. I mean, if your mind is so quiet that you can see, hear, feel, taste everything, like the 6 different taste nuances to adobo when you have it, like the sweet, spicy, tangy, hot, and like the balance or interplay. It's an absolute delight in every bite. And sleep, I gotta be better at the game of taking care of myself so I can take care of other people better. So I think I'd be doing more of that. So sleep, eat, enjoy company of more people. That'd be nice.
Yeah, there were moments you said you only had 4 hours of sleep, and that was good for you. So it's crazy to hear.
There was actually like a 2.5 month period when I'd make do with like 1.5 hours per day, plus 1 to 2 20-minute naps during the day. It's just I figured out how to tweak my sleep cycle, so I required not so much of it. Not ideal and not sustainable, but can be done. I was wearing many hats at the time. I was teaching. I got clinics in Cebu, Bulacan, 2 places in Manila, and I had 2 consultancies going on all at the same time. That's a level of craziness. And there's no thing. It's just, it's fine if you're a student, but when you have to take care of other people, when the survival and well-being of other people, mental and physical, depends on you, that's a different game. So I really studied up on how to be better at studying up. so I could do things better, so I could keep myself and other people alive and well.
Meta learning is a topic for different discussion, but yeah, thank you for
but that's exactly what we're looking at. Yep. And thank you.
And just a final takeaway, is there any insight quote or anything you'd want to leave the listeners with?
To be a hero, to help other people, you gotta help yourself first. If you're to be of any use in this world, you've gotta aspire to be monstrous in capability. Then with that monstrous capability, with that monstrous responsibility, with that monstrous power, you can be a really powerful hero. And if that's something you... Jordan Peterson is my nearest reference for stuff I've elucidated along those lines. Yes indeed. So if there's anything I think that would be really impactful to share with people, I'd say this: go out. The way to do it isn't to wait at your house for the dragon to come. Go out of your house, go up the mountain, and challenge your edges, challenge your dragons, and that will speed up your becoming a true hero in your own world and in the world outside.
Get your Molginir. Can't seem to ever pronounce that word properly.
Get your Jolnir. Yep. Be thou worthy of thine own sword.